is and has become a major part in today's vastly increasing technological world. It aids in the investigation of crimes, prevents any possible cyber threats, and helps keep the online world at less risk of crime too. Tracking, which is finding digital trails left by online criminals to identify, capture, and expose the criminal activities. This is a major subsection of digital forensics. There are many methods that digital forensic investigators use to track down cyber criminals. We will now look at the significance of tracking in digital forensics. First, tracking is one of the main parts of digital forensics. It certainly enables detectives to recognize and compile evidence of online cybercrimes such as hacking, phishing, and theft. This is crucial as it allows for the conviction of offenders, therefore stopping further crimes from taking place. Also, seeing weak parts and patterns in cybercriminal behavior, tracking will help the defense of guarded data and systems against future attacks. Lastly, tracking will also help understand cybercriminal psychology and strategies and methods. Investigators will be able to create safety measures from this. We will now go over some tracking methods that are used in the digital security industry now. IP address analysis. IP address analysis is a very good method for catching novice cybercriminals. An IP address is a hexadecimal number that is assigned to a device that can connect to the digital world. By analysing this, investigators can see what sites the user has been on and whereabouts in the world the user is located. This can only work with novice criminals, as more advanced criminals will be able to hide the IP using a VPN. Log analysis. Log analysis is the process of analysing the logs created by a user when they go on an application, system, or a device. This can aid tracking by user behaviour analysis. This is where a user activities and interactions are logged down. This provides precious insights into the potential cybercriminal's behaviour and preferences, making it easier for them to be caught out. Malware analysis. Malware analysis is the practice of determining any suspicious files within a network using complex analysis methods to do so. With proper analysis, users will be able to keep their data safe. Investigators will be able to look at the origin of the suspicious file and do an analysis of the said file too. We will now look at the challenges that digital forensic investigators use with tracking. Although tracking is a vital role in capturing cyber criminals and keeping the digital space safe, it has drawbacks too. Encryption. Encryption can be used to hide any data by turning it into an unreadable jumble of words and letters. Encryption methods have vastly increased in complexity too over time, making it more and more hard for investigators to decrypt potentially incriminating data. VPNs. VPNs are used by millions of people across the world who hide their online position. It's also very easy for cybercriminals to use this tool to mask their online identity too. VPNs are very cheap also. Also, due to the rapid increase of technology, cybercriminals also evolve too, making it increasingly difficult for digital forensic investigators to stay ahead of the criminals. Overall, tracking is essential for seeking out cybercriminals and keeping normal digital users safe. We will look more at different sub-methods of tracking used in the rest of the presentation too. As cybercrime continues to evolve, so must the science of digital forensics, in order to stay one step ahead of the criminals.
Location data is incredibly useful when attempting to establish a challenge and alibi. Almost everyone nowadays has a smartphone with a GPS receiver. The GPS data is used to track location even when navigation software and other applications are not in use. The data is used for many purposes, including recommending nearby restaurants, tagging locations on Instagram photos, or information on how long a drive home may take. Mobile phones aren't the only GPS devices used today. Other GPS devices include auto, aviation, and marine devices. as well as personal GPS devices, with auto devices being the most popular. Information obtained from GPS devices includes historical favourite locations, track points where the GPS has been, waypoints the user saved as a location of interest, and routes for navigation. GPS makes use of a process called triangulation. When a GPS device can receive signals from at least 3 satellites at once, the device can calculate its position in 2 dimensions, latitude and longitude. This is triangulation. If a GPS device can receive signals from 4 satellites, it can calculate its position vertically, or its altitude. This process is trilateration. There are 30 plus satellites circling the Earth. These satellites transmit navigation data towards the Earth containing the satellite's position, a timestamp, and the health of the satellite. GPS devices need to know all these factors. As satellites travel at a known velocity, these factors provide enough information for the device to perform the calculations. These calculations are not only for position, but also direction and speed. The accuracy of these calculations can vary by manufacturer and model of the GPS device. Portable GPS devices are broken into 4 groups. The first is simple devices that only track basic routes and may have a USB connection. Smart devices are USB mass storage devices and can carry at least 2 gigabytes of internal data storage. They can use SD cards and other features like point of interest, favorite locations, and MP3 player. Hybrid devices have the capabilities of smart devices, whilst being able to Bluetooth connect to a phone and be used for calls. Forensic examiners therefore have access to calling data as well as the typical location data. The last is connected devices, which are like hybrid devices, but have their own GSM cellular, radio, and SIM card. All of the types of devices are useful for forensic examiners to gain information. There are 2 categories of information that GPS units can provide examiners. These are system-level information, which is the data the device records, and user-created data, which requires user interaction to be recorded. At system-level data, a GPS device will record track points on its own. These are points showing location data at a certain time intervals. A track log is a list of these track points in order. In forensic use, examiners can use the track log to see a path of where and when the GPS device was located. This can help determine where and when a crime may have been committed. For user-created data, waypoints are entered into a device by the user, and routes are a list of all the waypoints. User data can help with proving intent of a crime by showing if someone was intending to go to a specific location where a crime was committed. While GPS is very useful in terms of evidence for proving or disproving an alibi in a criminal trial, it can do much more. GPS data reveals not only locations at specific points in time, but can also reveal movement patterns over months or years. This evidence can be applicable in civil cases. For example, it can show how often and what times an alleged stalker drove past a victim's house or place of work. Forensic experts are able to recover all existent and even previously deleted data from various devices. An example of GPS being used to solve a forensic case is in the murder of Connie Davitt. Her husband, Richard Davitt, claimed he was picking up a laptop he had forgotten at home at 9 a.m. when his wife was supposedly at the gym. He claims to have heard a noise upstairs, went to investigate, and came across an intruder. He said Connie then came home, the intruder shot her, tied Richard up, and attacked him. Richard said he overpowered the intruder and hit the house's panic alarm to call 911 at 10:11 a.m. There were issues with his story. Police were not able to find a suspect in the area. There were no signs of forced entry. Nothing was taken from the house, and police dogs were not able to detect the presence of anyone else in the house. The police could then obtain warrants to look at the couple's electronic devices, including cell phones, computers, and Connie's Fitbit. The Fitbit registered a walking distance of 1,217 feet between 9:23 and 10:05 a.m. The walk from her car to the basement, where the intruder allegedly shot her upon entrance, would be no more than 125 feet. The device showed Connie was moving about for nearly an hour after her husband said she was killed. As well as this, Facebook records showed Connie posted 3 videos at 9:46 a.m. using her home IP address, when she should have been dead. The alarm system showed movements throughout the house that didn't match Richard's description of the attack. Through all this, and the fact that Richard had had an affair which resulted in a pregnancy, Richard increasingly became a suspect. The Fitbit data was enough to disprove Richard's story and subsequently charge him in Connie's murder. Another example of GPS being used to solve a murder was the murder of 18-year-old Danny Paulson. Wendy Paulson, Danny's adoptive mother, became increasingly worried about her daughter when she started hanging out with the wrong crowd, using drugs, dropping out of high school, and driving under the influence. This led to Wendy trying to install location apps like Life 360 on her daughter's phone, but Danny kept deleting them. So Wendy hid a safe track device in the trunk of Danny's car. This would monitor her location and driving speed. However, despite her best efforts, Danny died in 2019, shortly before her 19th birthday. The tracking device did allow her to find Danny's body quickly and later identify the killer. Wendy was away for the weekend when Danny stopped answering calls and texts when she was supposed to be at home looking after their dogs. Wendy checked the tracker, which said the car was parked in a suburb of the Twin Cities. The car was found with Danny's body in the passenger seat. Police arrived at the crime scene and used data from the tracker to see where Danny travelled in her last few hours. She was shown to have visited the home of Cavonzo Burnett, who had a prior record. It was established that Burnett supplied fentanyl to Danny. Fentanyl is a Class A narcotic that is 50 times stronger than heroin. After a second death relating to fentanyl, Burnett was convicted and the tracking device was presented as evidence. Burnett was found guilty. Wendy is now an advocate for parents to keep a close eye on their children, even if that means resorting to using tracking equipment to spare them the pain she went through.
The analysis and interception of digital data is used in digital forensic investigations to gather evidence against an expected criminal related to a crime that's been committed. Someone's internet history or browser history is often a key piece of digital evidence that investigators will examine whilst a criminal investigation is taking place. By analysing a criminal's internet history, digital forensic experts can often uncover important information about the criminal's activities and intentions leading up to a crime. Some examples are the criminal's internet search history, browsing history, and social media activity, all being able to provide a greater understanding about that criminal's interests, motives, and possibly associations. Digital forensic experts can use specialised tools and techniques to recover deleted files and deleted search histories, examine network traffic, and analyse other digital artefacts to gain insights into a criminal's online behaviour. This can help investigators build a timeline of events leading up to a crime and identify key individuals or organisations involved. Internet can therefore be a valuable source of digital evidence for digital investigators, providing an important insight into a criminal's online activities and helping to build a compelling case against them in court. Some cases where internet history was used. In 2009, Philip Markov was called the Craigslist Killer after using the website to lure women into hotel rooms and rob them. The police were able to track him down through his email and IP address, which led them to his home address. They then checked his internet history to find that he'd been contacting the women on Craigslist. In 2013, the FBI shut down the underground marketplace known as the Silk Road, which allowed users to buy and sell drugs and other illegal items using Bitcoin. The founder of the Silk Road was eventually arrested after investigators were able to trace his online activity and link it to his real-world identity. In court, they included his internet history to show that he had accessed the site's administration page. The Andrew Saunders case is another example. his ex-girlfriend and her new partner. He was a jealous man and had researched revenge killings online prior to committing the stabbings in Cardiff. When being prosecuted, police used some of his online searches, such as 16 steps to kill and not get caught, and how long do murderers get in prison. He also watched an online video called 10 People Who Got Revenge on Their Cheaters. The wife of Brian Walsh had gone missing, and Brian became suspect of the murder due to the contents of his search history, even though no body had been found. Some of the searches included 10 ways to dismember a body and does baking soda make a body smell good. Brian was convicted after a large amount of evidence against him was shown in court, including his Google search history, which also included searches about divorce, murder, dismemberment, and the decomposition of bodies. Google stores this sort of information on everyone that uses Google, and police can compel the company to turn over that data if they have a warrant. A keyword warrant specifically allows the police to ask Google to show them users that have made specific online searches. This can be controversial, as it might allow police to have a disproportionate amount of power. So, although the police's ability to use Brian's internet history in court proved to be very useful in the case, the police's ability to easily access all users' data with a warrant must also be kept in line as to not be a breach of people's privacy. Although, as of 2020, the auto-delete feature is now in place for Google, meaning the data is deleted automatically after 18 months. If existing users select the auto-delete option, however, rather than staying there forever. The police are still able to request internet histories, however, with an appropriate warrant. Some ways of retrieving deleted internet or browser histories. Google Chrome stores data in an SQLite format, which can be examined using an SQLite database viewer. The file containing the Google Chrome browsing history is stored as a default folder history. This history file contains all browsing information of the users, such as visited links, downloads, search terms, and download chains. We can then see the database structure of this history file. Criminals normally delete their history off the browser. This history can then be recovered by going to a previous version of the browser and manually selecting the properties, selecting the previous version of the tab, and selecting the Restore option. The version of the browser which investigators will need can then be accessed by selecting the specific version of the browser containing the desired evidence. A web browser is the only way to access the internet, and criminals can use this to commit cybercrimes. Considering this, browser forensics is a very important field that digital forensic investigators should examine due to the ability to recover a criminal's deleted internet history, allowing for investigators to gather more evidence which could aid in the building of a case against a criminal.
Cyberstalking can be a few things, but the main one is harassment or stalking of a person via online channels such as social media, online forums, or any online interaction. Insulting someone isn't harassment itself, but if you consistently and constantly insult someone, then that is considered harassment. It can start as a simple comment on a post, then they'll start privately messaging them and do and say all manner of things to get a reaction out of the victim. Blocking or avoiding the person isn't really an option, since it's easy to create new accounts or just go to other platforms to contact the victim. This can even have real-life consequences, as being harassed every day, even if it's online, can take a mental toll on the victim. The harasser can also harass the victim if they get in real life if they gather enough information. This can be easily done for the harasser if the victim is active on social media and aren't careful about their personal information that they may post. Messaging, while being the main form of cyberstalking, isn't the only form of it. Other forms can include posting private information online, like photos of their kids or where they work, hacking social media accounts, sending viruses, unsolicited emails, cyber identity theft. The motivation behind cyberstalking is similar to real-life stalking, like revenge, anger, control, or lust. Due to the fact that anyone on the internet can reach anyone else on the planet that has internet access, this means the harasser can have very little or no connection to the victim prior to the start of the harassment. When it comes to legally punishing the harasser, it can be difficult, as the internet provides people to act anonymously and receive very little to no consequences in real life. This can also be problematic if the harasser is from another country, as the laws of their country may not apply or punish cyberstalking. Since the internet is a more modern tool, there aren't as many laws as possible surrounding it, and so a lot of countries don't punish cyberstalking. When it comes to the UK, there are a few laws that intend to punish people for cyberstalking. The main form of evidence in cyberstalking are messages from the harasser to the victim, but the messages need to be either grossly offensive, of an indecent, obscene, or menacing character, or are sent from the purpose of causing annoyance, inconvenience, anxiety of the victim. Also, prosecutors must be satisfied that it is in the public's interest that the harasser is to be punished. So, if the harasser is high on the spectrum, very young, so they are immature, are likely to repeat the offence, is remorseful, whether the victim took any action to prevent the harassment, so if they blocked them, for example, or is a hate crime. If it is found to be the case, the prosecutor will not punish the harasser. Because of all of this, it can be very difficult to actually punish the harasser.
So now we're going to look a little bit at the impacts of social media on tracking and geotagging as a subcategory of tracking. So firstly, what is geotagging? This is the process of attaching geographic coordinates to media based on the location of a mobile device, which utilizes GPS. This includes attaching geolocation onto photos, videos, websites, text messages, and QR codes. This location information can be obtained through this content when published onto social media platforms such as Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat, etc. Any people with access to the account, if the user is private or a public account, will be able to see where the user has. The idea is to make photos appear more social and inclusive. Often the geotag will appear in the description box above the media. So what are the risks of geotagging and social media posts? Firstly, geotagging makes the devices an increasingly attractive target for cybercriminals to compromise. Geotags can be easily modified to target individuals and making them vulnerable to stalkers, as if a predator was tracking its prey. Examples of this is if a homeowner are on holiday and exposing that they are away to any potential burglars. And then also geotags can be edited to make home addresses available if you are posting listings on social media selling websites such as Facebook Marketplace, etc. AVO criminals can also stalk their victims through social media platforms and find their locations. An AVO criminal is a person who is a stalker or has previously been violent to another party and has been required to remain a certain distance away from the victim, also known as a restraining order. If a victim is uploading photos with a geotag, these AVO criminals are able to access their location and potentially threaten the lives of these victims. Social media can be used to broadcast and spread crime, such as minor offences like graffiti and small-scale drug dealing, up to more serious offences such as rapes, murders and assaults. Often these videos and posts end up viral, which can be difficult for digital forensic examiners to remove. In the next slides, we will talk about 2 specific case studies in which geotagging and social media have had a negative social impact. We will first look at the case of the Facebook killer, which is also known as Steve Stevens. In April 2017, Steve Stevens shot dead 74-year-old Robert Godwin in Cleveland, Ohio. Godwin was selected at random by Stevens after he intended to go on a shooting rampage after arguing with his girlfriend. This was first identified when Stevens filmed the homicide on his phone and uploaded it onto his Facebook account. In the graphic video, Stevens asked the victim to say the name of his girlfriend into the camera before pulling the trigger. Afterwards, Stevens posted the video onto the social media platform Facebook with the hashtag Joy Lane Massacre, which was the name of his girlfriend, and talked about his feelings on a Facebook livestream afterwards, in which thousands of people viewed. It took investigators 24 hours to remove the video, and in total, a 2-day manhunt ensued to catch Stevens, which ended when he shot himself in the head when cornered by police. Looking into a case where geotagging has had an impact on a negative social impact is the case of PNB Rock. American rapper PNB Rock, also known as Rakeem Hashim Allen, was shot dead in September 2022 at a restaurant he was visiting with his girlfriend in Los Angeles. Rakeem was shot multiple times during an armed robbery in which one of the suspects approached him at his table whilst he was eating. This happened to take place, coincidentally, 30 minutes after his girlfriend geotagged their location of the restaurant on an Instagram post in which she posted to her story, and thousands of people were able to view. The LAPD suspected it was the Instagram post revealing the rapper's location that led to the gunman to the restaurant after the social media geotag. Many items belonging to Rakeem were stolen off his person, and the gunman made away with a lot of jewelry and personal items. So how does, conversely, geotagging and social media aid digital forensic investigators? The use of geotags embedded in a picture metadata provides an avenue for law enforcement to provide, at the very least, locational data for specific offences. The ability to search for images with a specific time, date, and geolocation greatly aids law enforcement in the investigative process. The tags may be able to give a street or a neighbourhood in which the offence has occurred, which is not as specific as a specific house, but it greatly allows police to quickly follow up on crimes and reduces workload by narrowing down the location of the crime. The use of geotags in forensic investigation has a significant potential in making it possible to achieve rapid triage of a crime scene, mapping crime scenes, and potential victim identification if many images of the victim in those locations have been posted. Geotagging and increased social media posts increase the awareness of certain crimes and suspicious activity, which can also be closely monitored. To summarise all of the subcategories of tracking, GPS devices make use of triangulation to form satellites and locate their position. There are different types of GPS devices, and they are all useful for forensic examiners to gain either system-level or user-created information. For internet history, important information can be gained when checking someone's internet history. Google has auto-delete features after 18 months, but these can be retrieved, helping forensic investigators. Geotagging and social media is the ability to constantly monitor someone's online presence and location, and can both be utilised equally by criminals and investigators alike. This links closely into cyberstalking and preventing cyberstalking, as having a location information on an individual is powerful. And then the next slides are just all the references that were used in this PowerPoint.